Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of Beyond the Tape. This episode we are joined by Josh Button, a guy that's had an up and down career and probably one of the most underrated riders in the country. But before we move on to that, let's have a chat about our sponsors for this one. Of course, we've got Canyon Bikes, our major sponsor for the podcast. They've come on board for this year. They're about to release something huge. It's going to be a pretty rad little project. So keep an eye out on their website. Keep an eye out on their socials because it's going to be pretty rad. Next, we've got Two Up Bike Co. Those guys have been killing it with Noble Wheels, Factor Components, Dumonte lubes, and just a bunch of other cool stuff. The stuff they're doing over there is kind of high-end, high-tech, really, really nice things. Shimano saddles. Of course, I always forget those guys. Anyway, jump over to their website. If you want anything, if you need to get anything from them, hit up your local store, get them to talk to Two Up, and they'll get it sorted. If your suspension needs a bit of work, hit up Australia's premium suspension service company, NSDynamics. Those guys have been doing it for years and use nothing but the best materials. Super stoked on all their work, and obviously the products like DVO, Ohlins and Forsprung, they use nothing but the best over there. Huck the World have been a major sponsor of this podcast since day one. I'd love to thank them for sponsoring me and keeping this podcast going and keeping me comfortable. If you want to go over and grab something, don't forget to use the code Beyond the Tape 10 and you'll get 10% off of your order on these fresh threads. Same applies for Dirt Surfer. Those guys have got a 15% off code of Beyond the Tape. They're 100% recycled material mud guards. You can get custom printing done as well on those bad boys. So if your shop or your company wants some custom printed mud guards, go hit them up. 100% recycled, 100% Australian made, and absolutely rad products. Also coming out of Australia is Fist gloves. Those guys have been killing it. Chapter 15 just dropped. Breezer gloves are by far my favourite gloves I'll ever wear, and I just threw out a bunch of old gloves today because Fist had become the best. I'm not going to wear anything else. Jump over there, use Beyond the Tape and get 15% off as well. I believe that's everyone. Thanks so much to all my sponsors for keeping this going. If you want to support the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on all the apps you listen to, and leave a review. Bump me up those lists and we'll keep this thing going. Always looking to improve, so any comments or anything always get read. So thanks so much to everyone for listening. As I said, Josh Button is coming up and he has got a cool little rad story, and we just go through his history because damn, it is a roller coaster. And it took an hour and we barely scratched the surface. So as usual, grab a water, grab a beer, grab a wine, grab whatever makes you happy and have a listen.
Yeah, well, Josh Button, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
That's all right. For those who don't kind of know who you are, could you just give a brief introduction?
Yeah, I'm my 31-year-old mountain biker from Coffs Harbour, and I've been racing around Australia and I guess the world on and off over the last 15 years.
Yeah, right. So since you were 16?
Yeah.
Because you were one of the original Vanzacks, right? With Will Rishbeth?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call us Vanzack. We definitely did the van thing. I think it was probably the year after the boys got the name, the Vanzacks. But yeah, we did the van thing around Europe for 2 years, I think. With Rishi. So
it was a pretty tight setup, if I remember correctly. Like the van wasn't set up 100%.
Yeah, it was. We're pretty fortunate to get it, but yeah, it was a short wheelbase Mercedes Sprinter. Luckily, I think it was a mid roof or a high roof, so it was like really short, but it was quite high, and we were able to squeeze our like bunk beds in there. But when we made them, they were only 500 mil wide, so you can imagine pretty narrow.
That's so good. What kind of got you over there in racing? Like how did you kind of get into the sport, and what got you over to Europe? What got you to that goal?
I'm pretty sure I just saw mountain biking somewhere, or one of my mum's partners had a mountain bike and I just started riding. So that sort of got me into the actual riding thing, and then just wanting to race. Obviously, I'm just a competitive nature, I guess, and I wanted to get into racing once I saw that somewhere. And once I started racing, I just got sort of keen to excel and better myself. And my first year junior, I was sort of just finding things out and making mates with Rishi, for example, and just sort of seeing where you can take it to, and getting a bit of insight here and there off Scotty Sharples, who was the coach at the time, and Paul Begg. And I guess once I saw you could get overseas and take it as far as you wanted, then that sort of got me motivated to do so.
So was Scott Sharples and Beggsy, they were part of the kind of like national junior development team at that time?
Yeah, they at that time it was actually really good. They had a nice budget, and Scott was sort of the main man, and Beggsy was his offsider, and they took the juniors and all of us under their wing and sort of showed us the ropes and helped us out where they could.
How big of a deal was it for you to be under those two and getting help from those guys? Because they were legends of the sport, right? Yeah,
it was pretty incredible. Like, I remember the whole national season, my second year junior was sort of my only chance to really get on the junior team. I felt so much pressure. Like, once I knew what sort of was involved and the whole world championship thing, I was just like, I think I crashed in most of the races, but I got enough decent results just to get a spot out of the 6 or 7 that they selected. And once I got that, it was seriously like just one of the coolest things ever. I felt pretty accomplished even just making it to the world championships on the Aussie team, and I was pretty happy.
Yeah, because that would have been a stacked team. That was what, like 2005, 6-ish, right? So
7 was my second year.
Okay.
Yep.
So still would have been like Hill and a bunch of like top dudes.
Yeah, they were all in elite. So in the juniors was like Delphi and Joel Bain and James Maltman and Rishi, and a couple, and Patton, and just a lot of quick guys. I think Emil was first year elite, so we still sort of backed it up with a pretty strong team after his year the year before.
So you definitely felt some pressure going into that, you mentioned?
Oh yeah, into world champs. So it was just a whole different ball game from like racing the Australian races, and then we did a few like European Cups and stuff. But going into world championships is just like, there's no way you can really prepare yourself, like, unless you're doing World Cup races. Like, we sort of just threw ourselves in the deep end, and I think most of us just ate shit in our race runs. But that stuff happens.
There's nowhere really in Australia to kind of prepare yourself for those tracks. Maybe now there is, but not back then, for sure.
No, for sure not back then, no. But now, you could definitely find a way to find tracks that are similar. But back then, it was totally different.
What was like so different about the tracks? Where was your first Worlds anyway?
It was Fort William. So,
okay. Yeah.
Just the speed and the roughness and the length, I guess, were the main things. Like, it was like a 5-minute track, and it was as fast as you could go, and just the roughest shit that you've ever seen. Like, it's pretty full on. And
probably the most spectators.
And them bloody 30,000 people watching. So it was. It's pretty.
All the pressures, like getting onto you at once, right?
Yeah, that's it.
How did you kind of deal with it?
By crashing, basically.
Yeah, sick.
I just had very little experience into how I reacted to pressure, and I've sort of never really been in that situation ever before. And I handled it horribly. Obviously, I had, I think, 2 or 3 crashes in my run, but it's sort of like an all or nothing race. Well, that's how we saw it anyway. It was like, you're gonna, 1 through 3, you'd be happy. The rest is sort of like meh, like whatever. So I guess the way I looked at it was just try and win or die, sort of.
Yeah.
And I just end up eating shit.
That's a good Australian attitude, hey? Like, it seems like it's very common.
Yeah.
Was there any pressure on from Beggsy or from Sharples or anyone to? I guess there would have been some pressure to win, but did you feel much pressure from the team?
Not really from the team. I mean, under Scotty was like a pretty big deal. So I don't really think he put pressure on us himself, but we all just put our own pressure on ourselves because we were there and under Scott's wing. So, yeah, but nothing direct from the team, no.
Yeah, okay. What kind of help did those guys give you? Like when you're first on a junior team, what are you kind of learning from those guys?
Just as much as we can. They would just offer their advice. They would offer tips on training. They would sort of I guess teach us how to live in a sense, because we were so young. We were like 17 on the other side of the world, and that they're sort of like our parental figure. So they would just give us tips on living and traveling and and training and riding.
Pretty much everything, right?
Just everything, yeah.
Yeah. How was the trip over there? Like, were you nervous about traveling as much because it was your second year, or?
Well, not really. My first year, I was sort of only just starting my first year junior, so I didn't really get over there or overseas or anything. But honestly, like 17 with a bunch of other mountain bikers, leaving your parents and going, like, I think we went straight to the US for 3 months. I was just so wrapped. I was like, could not wait to get over there and just ride my bike and have fun. So, yeah, it was one of the best feelings, leaving the country and saying to your mum and dad, like, see you in 3 to 4 months.
I've met your dad. He wouldn't have been too worried about you by the sounds of it.
Nah, he's a bit of a weapon.
He's a loose, very loose guy, isn't he? It's good.
Yeah.
So how long were you on a team, or were you sponsored or anything then, or were you just doing everything off your own back?
That was pretty much off my own bat in 07. I was riding a Mongoose, and they were supporting me. I think I had a few like just local companies in Coffs and around I think Dad's boss might have helped me out. They sort of chucked in all their money to get me a new bike. And then I did fundraisers at school, and I did fundraisers at the local race here, and just everything I could to try and get my money, like enough money for me to go over there. So yeah, that was pretty much it. Just a few local companies sort of chucked in a bit of cash here and there, and I got some jerseys printed up for them, and they were happy with that, and yeah, that got me there.
That's some pretty intense determination.
Yeah, and slaving away at Hungry Jack's, like after school was sort of, that helped too.
Trying not to get fat off of a few whoppers.
Yeah.
That's pretty epic determination for a 16 or a 17-year-old. Have you always kind of been like that, or?
Sorry, what was that?
Have you always kind of been that determined? And
yeah, I guess once I get my mind set on something, I'm like pretty hard to deter myself away from it, and I'll sort of do whatever it takes. Yeah,
sick. So where'd you place at Fort William then? Like,
I think I was like 30th with 3 crashes.
that's not too bad.
Yeah. I think I qualified 9th, and then we had a rerun in our race run because someone perished. And I think, I just had 3 big crashes and was like 30th or something. Nothing to remember. Yeah.
But then you kind of come home after that. What's it? I guess like after a big trip and big events like that, you come home, and is it hard to kind of come back to your local races and stuff, or you just keen to ride and do more?
Yeah, I remember the other boys were all keen to get home, and I was just like not dreading reality, but I just didn't want that feeling to end. I just wanted to stay over there and keep racing, and just trying to learn with amongst the best. So when I got home, I was sort of a little bit just get the holiday blues or whatever you want to call it, back to the grind and back to school and all that sort of stuff. It was pretty shitty, but I did definitely learn a lot over there. And when I did go back home and start racing, I definitely had a lot more experience under my belt, and I felt more confident riding the tracks at home.
And where did you kind of go after that? So did you get picked up by any brands, or when did you head over with Will again? Was it after that?
So that was 07, our first year. 08, Mongoose stepped up their support, and I was getting bikes, and then I just saved my money again and had a few other people help me out. And we just did it. Will and I teed up, and we just did a 3-month trip just to try and do a bit of as much racing as we could. First year, we didn't want to let like the whole hype around the Junior World Championship. It seems like if you blow it, then it's all over. But it's just so far from the truth. Like I feel like if you like you're still 18, you're so young, you've got so many years ahead of you. So when we're in 08, we went back over there just to try and I guess make a name for ourselves and gain as much experience as we could. And yeah, just a few companies helped me out and getting some bikes. We did another 3-month trip with we didn't have a car or anything. We just cruised around like taxis, buses, planes. It was so painful. We had 2 bikes each as well, so it was a tough go, but it was good.
Yeah, it seems like these days, especially, there's a lot of, I guess, instant gratification, and you want to do well at Worlds, and you think that that's like your big race, and if you don't do that by 18, you're pretty much done for. But there's a lot of kids that go the other way, right? Like they win and then they bow out. So
yeah, 100%.
Again, it's just like your determination. I know Will's a super determined guy as well. Like you guys wanted that dream, so you just went over there.
Yeah.
Was there any point where you just like, when you're boarding your 4th taxi for the day with 2 bikes, you just like kind of over it at all, or the end goal was driving you?
There was definitely like times where, well, I wouldn't say over it, but we're like, fuck, this is hard work. But we were, even during that trip, we were already planning the year after, knowing exactly what we're going to do. We're going to have a van and do our own thing and whatnot. So, yeah, we just, I guess, learned that year what to do and how to get around Europe a bit better, and moved on from there.
How many hours at Hungry Jack's did you have to do to fund those trips? Like, it'd be brutal.
So many hours. That were like, I think I was doing 4 or 5 closes a week. So I go from school and then work till 12 or whenever we shut. And then the odd weekend shift. But it was, yeah, it was a lot of burgers flipped, that's for sure.
Just getting your hand strength up, right?
Yeah.
That privateer grind seems so crazy and so hard to do. You did it for quite a while though, right? It was like 2 or 3 years at least.
Yeah. So we did 08 together, and then 09 was probably our biggest go at it. And that was like a 6-month trip, and that's when we had the van, and we got to as many World Cups as we could, and we both started riding quite good and getting a few good results. So that sort of helped get our names out there.
What was your best result in that kind of year with the van? And
09, I think I was like maybe 21st.
Okay.
But I think I started riding really well. I thought I was riding really well. I think I had like maybe 3 or 4 top 30s, or even a couple top 25s. So for me, and looking back at my fitness now, like how I was and what I thought I was, where I was in my fitness, in terms of fitness, yeah, that was actually pretty good results. So
yeah, well, top 30 these days is a very good result. I can't remember exactly what it was like then, but it was a little bit more spread out, right?
Yeah, it would have been a tiny bit, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Whereas now it's like you got those top 5 and then your next top 20. Yeah, it's a bit different.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
So did you ever end up on a factory team or a pro team?
Yeah, I had a pretty bad 2010 season with a knee injury that sort of sent me early, and that was sort of a turning point for me. I had nothing offered, and I was just sitting at home recovering, and then I got an email off Gary Pierre, who's a Swiss guy who runs the Suspension Centre Intense team, or who ran the SC Intense team. Yep. And he just sent me an email and said, "What are your plans for 2011, and do you want to come racing and whatnot?" And I was like, literally sitting at home with the knee like in a car in a brace, and I got this email. I was just so shocked. I couldn't believe someone actually knew who I was and were able to offer me a year deal to head over there. So I was pretty fortunate in that sense. And yeah, that was when I got picked up with SC Intense.
And was that just bikes and gear and stuff, or did they pay for your entries, or what was the kind of support like from those?
Pretty much. I'm pretty sure I just had to get there, so I just booked one return flight to Europe, and then basically everything was covered. Like it was a pretty sweet deal. We did all the World Cups, we did all the European Cups, and they let me live at their house in between the races and whatnot. And yeah, it was so good.
That's a pretty epic deal for like a first year team rider. Like that's pretty epic.
Yeah.
Did your riding just skyrocket?
It did towards the end of the year. Just getting used to things at the start. I think I was maybe around the 30s or 40s. And as 2011 started like tapering off to the end, I was I felt like I was a top 25 guy, and I had a really good qualifier, or like a top 15 qualifier, and then I had like a front flat mechanical and end up 30th or something at Val de Sol. So just like showing that I've got enough pace to run in the top 20. I was definitely riding really well until Champery World Champs. I got selected for the senior men's team.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And that came to an end pretty quickly after hurting my knee and needing a reco on like the day of practice or something. So yeah, that was the end of that season.
That would have been a good race to be at, though. That was the infamous Danny Hart race, all right? So
yeah,
that would have been. That's a brutal track. That looked.
yeah, it was pretty gnarly, and I'm still bitter about it because I felt like I was riding my best. The track was sick. Like I would have done really well, and with the World Champs, you can have people from all over the world that have never raced a World Cup, and they can get thrown into senior men's World Champs. And what happened was some dude from a country that I can't even remember, like Kazakhstan or something, was there this gnarly track, and end up having this huge crash and blocking the track as I've come down, and seeing him crash is seeing him crash on the track. I've over braked and I've had a massive one into him, and that's how I feel. So I'm still like, pretty bitter about that race, even though it was 10 years ago.
They don't do like an A and B practice at World Champs either, do they? Or were you in Bs?
No, because this was 10. Like they wouldn't have done that 10 years ago. They might do it now. I'm not really sure, but yeah, in 2011, that A and B practice, everyone was just chucked into elite or whatever. So yeah, it's a little bit different.
So what did you actually do to your knee at that point?
Tore my meniscus. Tore like bucket handle tear of my meniscus, MCL tear. And they reckon I had no ACL anyway. I've just like fully finished off something. So either way, I was due for surgery, and while they fixed the meniscus and MCL, I just got a new ACL put in. So
yeah, cool. Bit of a 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah, well, that's it.
What was your like mental state like? Because you've worked so hard and you've got to, you've privateered for 3 or 4 years, and now you're finally on a team. And then you have a big blowout as you're getting fast. Was it pretty mentally challenging? Yeah,
it was extremely challenging. It was sort of like, I'm sure I would have said like that's enough for me or whatnot, but it was just another hurdle I ended up getting over, and it doesn't take long to sort of, once you're moving around and you see a bike, you get keen again. So I'm pretty sure, I was keen within a couple of months.
Because that's enough to take a fair few people out. Like a full knee recon is a fairly big deal.
Yeah.
What was your rehab like for that?
It's pretty full on. I think I spent 2 weeks in Switzerland after the surgery, and then they flew me home, and then I'm pretty sure I had like 10 weeks off work or something. So I was just doing physio every day I could, and going to see the physiotherapist every couple of days, and just doing what I could.
That's a pretty big hit to the wallet as well.
Oh yeah, thankfully Cycling Australia have a really good insurance policy. So
oh, did that cover it? Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that was all covered. So
yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
So were you on the team again for that next year?
Yeah. So before I left, they
cool.
They re-signed me for another year, and all the other boys on the team, which I was pretty happy about because I definitely wanted to get some redemption. So yeah.
That would have helped your mental state as well, right? If you weren't signed with someone and that happened, it'd be...
Yeah, it'd be pretty shitty.
So who was on that team with you for the next year as well? Like, was it big name?
Or...
Okay, yep.
Yeah. He's one of my good mates. We had a great time together. Foster and Figueres is another Frenchie who I think he just retired last year.
Okay.
He's a really good rider. And then they had Lars, which is Gary's son, who was riding at a lot of the races too, and just a couple other Europeans that were on there, sort of in and out of the
Did they have a bike big enough for Payet, or?
Yeah, no, they didn't actually. I think he was on I don't even know if they made an extra large. He was on a large, but yeah, the thing was tiny for him.
Because he's on a like double XL Mondraker now, isn't he? I think.
Yeah.
Like some huge.
Got.
How tall is he? Like 6'7"?
I think he's like bang on 2 meters or something like that, whatever that is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude. Yeah.
So it was mainly Frenchies on that team, or Euros?
Yeah, 2 Frenchies and 2 Swissies.
Yeah.
And myself.
Was it a bit of a difference in culture for you as well? Like, I don't know how you are with the tech and stuff, but those guys, like the French riders, are always down for tinkering, it seems. Was it a bit like that? Was it a bit of a culture shock for you?
It was at first, but I don't know. We all adapted. We all got along so well. Like, I guess you just learn to adapt to how people live and their ways. And we became like really good mates. We still are to this day. But yeah, I'm sure it was a bit of a shift for me. Yeah.
Mm. It's crazy that his Flo's still racing too. Like, if you're Flo, he must be. How old's he now? Like, he's got to be around 35.
I think his second year junior was 04, so 4 years older than me, probably 35. Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane. He's definitely one of the most underrated riders, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's so good, and he's such a good dude.
Were you ever like starstruck by anyone you were racing with, like over there?
Oh, definitely. I'm trying to think of some. I think like just at the after parties, a couple of after parties we went to, I remember just like having in the back of a van with Petey and Manar and like just blind drunk and just heading to the after party. Somehow managed to be in the back of someone's van. Just sitting there looking at him, talking to him, just thinking like, fuck it, I did not know this is going to happen in my lifetime, you know.
Was that more of a point of like, I've made it than perhaps being in the start gate?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
I'm sure there's some pretty good stories to come from that as well. But
yeah, there is. It was some good times for sure.
And how did that year go for you? So that was like 2000, when was that, 2012?
2012, yeah. That was my... So I was still recovering with my knee. And I missed the first round. I think it was South Africa or something.
Mm.
So I flew straight to Europe, and I was riding really good. I was actually really confident. I thought I was going to be a top 20 guy, and I think I had a 22nd or something at Val di Sole at the first round I did. And then I had a couple of mishaps, I think, just crashes and a few hematomas and just some silly things happening. And then I cracked the top 20 in Wyndham 2012, which I was pretty happy about. I think I ended up 19th. So it was never really where I wanted to be. Like, I knew I could be better than that, but I felt like 19th at that time with that run or whatever. I was still pretty stoked.
Wyndham always seemed like a hard one to kind of crack, though, because it's more of like a one line, let's see how far off the brakes you can go.
Yeah, it fully is. It's just like one line, and I think the average speed's like 56k an hour or something. And it's seriously just like pray, like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess pray and so there you go.
So you had your good result on that, and then you've had good results on Val di Sole, which is almost like the opposite, right? Like, it's got a fast section at the top and then slow. I guess it is pretty fast. Do you like that type of track more?
I honestly I don't really know what I like, because every time I say I like a track, I do shit at it, or vice versa. Like, so I think on that bike, I rode really well on the rough stuff.
Yeah, okay.
So Wyndham was kind of fast, was pretty rough, and Val di Sole was just really rough. So I found myself doing quite well on those. Even Fort William, I did well on the intense. So yeah, I don't know. I say I like stuff, and then I'll do real shit at that track, and then I'll hate the track, and Yeah. So sort of just adapt to everything, I guess.
Just got to hate all the tracks. There's
Yeah. Well,
right
to be honest, I hated cans. Like.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
That's pretty.
Because was that the year after? No, that would have been.
Went on a bit of a hiatus after 2012. I got a little bit burnt out, and I sort of came to the realization that I sort of wasn't riding as good as I thought I could have, and I really wanted to get my sort of home life set up. So I had an opportunity to get I guess you call it a trade under my belt. Well, it's not really a trade, but get some skills under my belt in the earth moving industry. So when I came home from 2012, I just told Gary at Suspension Centre that I'll probably just have a couple of years off and figure out my home life and get that sorted. So which ended up working out really well. I went home and I learned this good skill that still I use today, and I ended up buying a house 12 months later, and I got really set up at home, which is good, but I still had that itch after a couple of years to get back overseas.
Because earth moving's good money, right? But was there like some sort of difference in satisfaction from, being in a truck earning a good money or being on the road in a bike? Like there's two different levels of satisfaction there, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Was it hard for you to just kind of give up racing and go down that path?
At the time, it wasn't that hard because I really took to this, like the earth moving thing. Like I said, when I get my mindset on something, I just sort of do it and to learn it. And I was so green and I knew nothing about earth moving, but I really wanted to be good and sort of like be the best operator or whatever I could be. So I just had my head down for the next 12 months and I just focused on that. And I don't even think I rode a little bit. I think I bought a motorbike and I mainly did a bit of moto riding and stuff like that, but I didn't really touch much on the mountain bike. I just went all in this earth moving civil stuff.
Was that mine work and stuff you're doing, or was it?
No, it was just like the road works up here and just civil construction. Yeah, a little bit of quarry work and whatnot.
So did it was it a good time to revitalize your passion for riding the bike?
Yeah,
you probably would have been pretty over it.
Yeah, for sure. So I took maybe a year off, I reckon, to 2013, and then by 2014, that's when I started getting the itch to go racing again. And I remember talking to Will, and Will was sort of in a similar position. I think he kept racing, but he was sort of a little bit burnt out too. And we ended up getting bikes and catching up for a race in like 2014, just a Mount Stromlo national champs or something like that. And we both got absolutely smoked, but yeah, that was sort of that reignited, I guess, a bit of passion for it. Yeah,
that would have been a bit humbling as well, right? Like,
oh yeah, I think we were like 15th and 16th respectively.
Yeah, okay.
We got absolutely towed up, but it was pretty fun.
Were you ever worried that you wouldn't get back on a bike, or were you just like from day one you knew you would kind of get back to it?
I wasn't too worried because I guess over the years of injuries and whatnot, you sort of always know that you're going to get the itch. Like it's something that you love deep down. So yeah, I wasn't too worried. I just wasn't really sure when it would come back. Like I didn't know if it was going to be a year or 3 years or what.
A lot of people, like, I guess, would see, especially like me or a lot of juniors and stuff, would see like mountain biking as a dream job and their kind of goals in life, which is sick. But you don't realize that you can still get burnt out and get over it because it is a job. Yeah. Were you surprised by it, or like how are you kind of feeling about getting over bikes?
Oh, it's sort of, when you're younger, it's something that you think will never happen for sure. Like you're like, I could do this forever, but I don't think I was surprised about it, but maybe a little like a little surprising once you sort of sit back and think, fuck, like I never thought that would happen to me, so yeah. Especially
because you were so driven for that path for so long.
Yeah,
to have that kind of not work out would have been pretty tough.
Yeah.
Was it easier because you found that drive to go drive trucks and do that thing?
Yeah, think that filled a hole or something. Yeah, yep, for sure. Gave me some purpose again, I guess. Yep.
So that was 13, 14-ish, right?
Yeah.
If I'm correct. And then you raced with Rishi. What kind of happened after that? Because it all kind of exponentially rose really quickly for those 2 years, right?
So I think 2015 was when I really got stinging to get racing again, and I just rang a mate who had a bike shop and got onto Giant Australia, and they ended up getting me a bike within a couple of weeks, and then I just started doing the national series for late 2014, early 2015, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I rode a heap before it, and I think I did quite well. I think I got a couple of podiums and stuff like that, and yeah, that was me just hooked again.
That would have been a good national series time as well, right? Like that would have been peak just before they expanded.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there was like still 6 rounds, and which doesn't sound like much, but it's quite a lot for us. And then that led into 2016. 2015, 2016. And I just did the nationals again.
Yeah.
And Matty DePel, who's a long-time friend, was running the Kona team, is still running the Kona team. And we were in Bright for national champs 2016. And he said to me early in the week, he's like, oh, you should come back overseas and be Connor's teammate for 2016 for the World Cup.
Sick.
And I just sort of laughed about it and didn't know how serious to take it. And I just said to myself, if I do well at that national champs that weekend, then I'll do everything I can to maybe have a crack and see what I can do. And end up doing quite well. I think I got 3rd, so that was sort of my made.
Yeah, because that was a pretty kind of surprising thing to see, like, because I guess you kind of, because of that hiatus, not many people knew who you were, and then you kind of just came back onto the scene real strong, and then went on Kona. Like it was quite surprising to see. How was that kind of like escalation for you? Was it pretty easy just to kind of go along with the ride and see how it went?
I was definitely keen. Like once I had that itch back, and you start watching the World Cups overseas, and you get talking. I was talking to Matty, and he was keen to get me on the Kona and whatnot. I definitely just went along with it. I was ready to go.
Yeah. And then, so you're back overseas like fairly soon. Were you overseas that year? Because March would have been nationals.
That was March, and then the Cairns World Cup. So that was round 2 of the World Cup. That would have been April. I think it was like late April.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was my goal, to get there, and I guess once again see how I went there, and if I did well, go overseas. If not, if I did really shit, then maybe I wouldn't. So we went to Cairns. I had Connor's one of his old bikes for a week or something before I flew out.
Yep.
And I felt really comfortable on it like straight away. And I went to Cairns and was in the B practice with all the B guys, just sort of doing my own thing. Like I didn't really have super fast people to watch. I just rode my own sort of practice, and it ended up, I must have been riding really well because I qualified 13th and then ended up getting 5th. So that was a big deal for me, for sure.
I think that was a big deal for everyone.
It was a pretty sick story. Like looking back at it, just like a week on the bike and a full-time earth mover, and the whole like a couple of years off racing and stuff like that. It was it's a pretty cool story.
Because I remember I was working in a shop at the time, and it's one of the only times we could have like the downhill live in the store, because it's actually in Australia and not at 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was getting to the pointy end, but still like everyone was kind of doing their jobs and stuff. But then your run come up, and I don't know like why, but the whole store kind of stopped and watched, and then you kind of end up 5th, and it was just like a really good day. It was just like a cool experience to be a part of.
Yeah, it was so sick.
Was that the year of the Legionnaire hat as well?
It was the year of the Liege. I think we had a few from Giant. They made us some. Rishi and I were just mucking around with the idea and end up making some. So yeah, the whole sort of months before that, we were rocking Legionnaires hats around, and the Triple J had the big Legionnaires, the Legion thing going, and yeah, it was so sick. And then we got to wear one on the podium at a World Cup, which is pretty special.
Because that was a bit of a last minute choice or something. I can't remember. I heard that, but yeah, it was like it was one of your last minute choices to pack it into your bag and take with you.
Yeah, that's right. So I think Will had one, or Will gave me one, or someone gave me one, and we went after morning practice on the race day. Connor and I rode back to our motel, and we had a sleep and some food and whatnot, and then packed our helmets up, and we're heading back to the track for the race. And as I left to shut the door, I remember looking back. I was sleeping on the floor on a blow-up mattress.
Okay.
And I looked back on my bed, and there was my Legionnaires hat, and I just had this vision, like, imagine, like, I should grab it. Imagine if I could wear that on the podium or something. It was just like a split second. And so I went back in, grabbed it, chucked it in my bag, and then locked the door, and we rode over to the track. And then, 2 hours later, I was standing on the podium with a Legionnaires hat on.
Self-fulfilling prophecy right there.
Yeah, so.
That's so good.
Pretty sick.
That's a good start to your year too, like third at Nationals and then a podium at a World Cup. Like, that's pretty epic.
It was pretty incredible. So after that, I'm just like, let's go. Like, I'm ready. I want to take it to the world sort of thing, yeah. Yeah.
How good is it being a part of that Kona team at that point as well? Because it was quite a good team then. I think Ant-Man was on there as well at that time.
Yeah.
And it would have been a good family kind of vibe.
Yeah, it was so sick. It was just like a bunch of mates hanging out, and we just had so many good laughs, and so I was pretty happy with Shelley and Connor and Ant-Man and DePel. It was a good bunch of people.
It seems like a really good team, and that's obviously why Connor's been there for so long, but it definitely seems like a more dialed team. Does that kind of dynamic help you with your racing?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like a little less pressure on the team. It's more just go ride your bike and do your best type vibe. So I think that definitely, would have helped me for sure.
Yeah, sick. And then you raced. How did the rest of the results go for that year?
So that was when I flew over to Fort William, got everything organised. A month later, flew over to Fort William. I got a new bike, and we had a mechanic and everything there. It was a pretty sick setup, and I just kept struggling all sort of practice with I don't know. Like, I guess it was me having a few dramas and not riding as good as I could, and breaking the bike quite often. Like, they were burping my tires and shit like that. Just little things I wasn't sort of figuring out. And come quality run, I had a huge over the bars and end up dislocating my hip. So that was like the end of that trip. And I ended up getting carted up to Inverness and stuck in the hospital for 6 weeks in Inverness, which is like northern Scotland or whatever, maybe. That was just like from the highest high to the lowest low, sort of within a month. So that was pretty tough.
Again, I remember reading that on the pink bike or something, like just after that and just after like the Cairns World Cup, and I saw that on pink bike. I'm like, how could this story go like more of a roller coaster?
Yeah, no, fuck, tell me about it. It was pretty shit time.
And that injury is like no joke, because I think G. Atherton's done it before as well, and he seemed to knock him about hard, and he's a tough dude. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was a year after maybe or something like that. He did, same sort. In Fort William too, I think. Might have been.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah. What was the injury like for you? Like, can you describe what it kind of means? Because I don't understand how you dislocate a hip. Like, how did it kind of happen with an OTB?
Apparently it happens in a lot of car crashes, and I guess the force goes through your shin or your knee, and then it pushes your femur out of your hip socket or whatever. So how I did that on a big over the bars, I have no idea. But I just remember, over the bars and then landing and then feeling hip pop out, and then laying there in excruciating pain, and then the next rider jumped. And I think he crashed, or somehow he just like landed straight on me and has moved me. I remember like that was when it was definitely the worst pain I've ever felt, just like having my hip out and then fully move. It was pretty shit, but it wasn't like that sort of knocked me around. It was the fact that once I got to Inverness and in the hospital, they I think my hip was out for like 9 hours or something, pretty gnarly. And then they knocked me out and they put it back into place, and I woke up feeling pretty good. It's like the first time I've woken up from anaesthetic and felt better than when I went in. So it was pretty good feeling once that. But yeah, just the 6 weeks in traction in a bed just like fully knocked me around mentally. And yeah, that was just like watching the hour go by for 6 weeks is pretty tough.
Because in traction means you're not moving at all, right? Because you can't move your hip, otherwise it just disturbs everything. Yeah,
so just a weight on a pulley pulling my left leg sort of away from and just on my back, and yeah, it was pretty gnarly.
So just want to jump back to something you said it was out for 9 hours. Is that because it took 9 hours for you to get from the track to the hospital?
Yeah, so they
Fuck.
I'm pretty sure there was a heap of crashes, and there was some really gnarly ones. So the chopper was busy, so they couldn't fly me to Inverness, and they didn't want to do I think you call it a reduction or whatever, in the local hospital at Fort William. So I pretty much went there, got my scans done at the local hospital, and then they had to wait for an ambo to come from Inverness into Fort Bill, then take me out there, and then they had to get a doctor who was going to do the hip reduction. But it was like 9 hours by the time they finally put it back in.
Kind of reminds me of that whole Brooke McDonald story. Like that's like a fairly big deal to be in that much pain for 9 hours.
Yeah.
Were you definitely over it by then? For sure, right?
Oh yeah, like the pain, or
just being like in that position, like just 9 hours for waiting to see what happened.
They would just give me every drug they could, and so I was like on a pretty good high.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could still definitely feel it. But yeah, I was just more worried the damage it's going to do for being out that long, like think long term and stuff like that. I just wanted to get the thing back in.
Oh, for sure. Just get someone to pull on it.
Yeah, exactly. Give it a yank.
So how did you mentioned like it was pretty mentally draining to be in traction for 6 weeks. How did you kind of deal with that? Like, can you do anything?
Well, I think the only way I got through it was the fact that I thought I could be going home tomorrow. Like every day I was like, tomorrow's the day. And thankfully my mum come over, and I against my order, I thought I'd be home in a week. So I was like, don't worry, it's all good. But she ended up flying over just out of nowhere a week later or something. So she got me through it. She bought me food and she helped organise all my paperwork. And without that, like, I feel like I'd still be there. Like, it was so hard to get the paperwork through to my insurer, the doctor, and then the airline, and then just coordinate it through everyone. It was a friggin' mission.
That's a whole, because the injury is like the easy part when you're in hospital. Like, it's healing, right? But you got to deal with that paperwork. Yeah, and
it's never ending. And I remember, so that was basically what kept me going, was thinking that tomorrow could be the day. And then after 5 weeks, I remember speaking to people on the World Cup circuit, like they were asking me how I'm going, and they were like, they'd done like 3 or 4 other races, so they were on the other side of the world, and they were like, what are you still doing in Scotland? Like, it was pretty weird. But after 5 weeks, we sent all that paperwork off, everything was done, and I think they had Ramadan or some shit in what's it called? Somewhere. What am I thinking?
India.
They had Ramadan holiday in Dubai or wherever they have it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that ended up pushing back.
Could be anywhere.
Because Yeah, I flew with Dubai or something. I'm pretty sure Ramadan pushed back. It was like their public holiday, and it ended up being like another week. I had to wait
Oh
for them
god.
to sign off on all the paperwork. It was something like, it was so bad. So that was that was the hardest thing, because I'd been 5 weeks and then thinking tomorrow I'm going to go home, and then I get told 1 more week until you can go. It's just like, just ruined me.
How did you fly? Like, obviously you can't, like 6 weeks, it's not healed, right?
Mm.
Like-
They what they do? They sent 2 doctors from Sydney. They flew them over, and then they got an ambo for me, and they drove me to Edinburgh with the 2 doctors and my mum, and then got into the tarmac, and then they lifted me. All these guys carried me on a stretcher, and they I guess they put like 6 seats down in the back of the plane, and then they had this medical stretcher that they sit on top, and then they sat me on there, and that's how I flew home. I just had some sleeping pills, and away I went.
Imagine if you didn't have insurance for all that, because that just sounds like dollar bills going through the till.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like that's probably why CA insurance premiums went up the next year, because my bill was a couple of $100,000, no doubt.
Oh, easy. Like,
Yeah.
even just the seats is 60 grand roughly. Like, that's
Yeah. Oh, it was pretty gnarly.
How was the recovery after that when you got home? Like, were you back in hospital after that, or?
Yeah, I think I had I only had 3 more days in hospital back here, and then that was the end of my 6-week traction or whatever. And then it was just physio, sort of like not putting your feet down and walking on your feet for 6 weeks. It was just so odd, the feeling when I could walk again. But yeah, just did physio and all the normal stuff they get you doing, mobility and strength and whatnot.
Because a lot of your strength would have gone by then too. So
yeah, I was wasted away. The muscles just turned to nothing. So.
Well, everything would have, because you're just in a bed. Like,
yeah,
I think every day you lose, if you're not moving, it's 22 to 5% or something like that, right? So
yeah, right.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
What were you determined to get back on a bike, like straight away again?
Yeah, I think I was just still so hungry. Like, as shit as that was, I felt like it was pretty, like it was just unfortunate, I guess. And I think someone had started up a GoFundMe before I left, because they knew I was sort of struggling to get some cash. So one of my mates started up a GoFundMe, and they had like $3,000 in the account or something. I knew nothing about it, and he might have told me the day before I crashed and did my hit. So he like changed that from helping me to get over there to sort of helping me recover and helping me get back to racing. So as soon as I saw that and I got back home and knew my hip had recovered quite good, then I was just keen to see if I could get back over there and see if I could race the last World Champs or the last World Cup round before the year was done.
Yeah, right.
So because I did so well at Cairns, that had me as like a higher selection for the team. So I guess that was my goal, was just to get back over there and just sort of prove that I can still do it.
Did you end up getting over there for that?
Yeah, I did. I made it back. It was Val di Sole was the World Champs, and because I did so well the year before, I was confident I could do as good as I did, but obviously it's a different circumstance, so I didn't do too well. But yeah, I made it back for that. I did Andorra finals, and then I did Val di Sole World Champs.
Yeah, sick. That's pretty impressive to go back to those tracks after such an ordeal. Like, you didn't ease back into it.
No, not at all.
Where did you place at those World Champs?
I think I was like 36th, so it was like pretty shitty. But obviously I knew why I was going slower. Like, I just wasn't there mentally, I guess.
That track was brutal that year as well, wasn't it? It was like real blown out.
Real dusty one, yep.
Yeah. That's the one, I think Laurie Greenland was nearly about to die every 10 seconds.
Yeah. I think he got third or something like that. Yeah, he did really good.
Yeah. That was intense. What did you do the year after? Because it seemed like you kind of disappeared again, or were you trying to get back onto it, or?
No, 2017, I got myself good, and I went back over there with Kona and Maddie and Connor and everyone. But I just had other things on my mind, like I guess I wanted to party, and I wasn't as focused as I should have been. I had some stuff going on at home, so I still was riding all right, but I just didn't really have my focus on the job. Yeah. So I did a full season. I think I got one top 20, and what else did I get? Maybe a couple other races, like local races I did all right at, but yeah, I just had my mind elsewhere.
Yeah. Was that the first time you've kind of delved deep into that party scene? Like, I mean, you mentioned before you were with Petey and stuff, but you seem pretty focused on the racing side of it. Was this your first time kind of going down that route?
We used to go to the odd one just because I felt like at that time it was good. It was so maybe more beneficial for someone that's not a top 5 or top 10 guy to meet people. And I'm not the most like social outgoing person. So for me to go out and have a drink and get confident and talk to people was sort of the best thing I could do, I reckon, for my career or whatever, or my, yeah. So, but 2017, I guess, I got a little bit off track, and I was just wanted to have fun, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that just because you wanted to kind of let go a bit and have a bit of fun, or?
Yeah, well, I think I just wanted to let go and enjoy it because I knew it sort of wasn't going to last. Like, I was still riding heaps and training like quite hard, but I was definitely enjoying myself. Yeah, trying to make the most of it in case it sort of didn't happen again.
Well, it kind of led to that, right? I guess in a funny way, because were you off the team the next year? Or how'd that kind of go?
What happened? I hurt my knee again. I had another knee issue. I think I came home and my knee wasn't real good, and I wanted to just sort myself out and sort my body out. So I decided to get my other ACL repaired in 2018, and then that sort of rode off that year.
Yeah.
And then 2019, I sort of was looking at the enduro thing that everyone was raving about, and I did enduro. It was 2017 at Crankworks. I did one enduro, the Whistler one.
Yeah.
And that sort of got me keen and pretty interested in that format of racing. So after my knee reco in 2019, I got a trail bike and I started looking into that just to, I guess, keep things fresh. And they're so much fun because it's just a whole lot of riding with your mates basically, and then you do 5 races or 6 races. So I just got a little bit burnt out from the downhill stuff and not riding as good as I wanted to, and thought I'd try a different format of racing.
So you went to the EWS type of races, or was it more local stuff first?
Well, it's just 29. It was just local stuff.
Yeah.
Just trying to work my way back into it and find a bit of speed and a bit of confidence.
And then obviously 2020 was a write-off.
Yeah. So end of 2019, we did the national champs and stuff at Tassie, and that once I've raced the sort of bit bigger races, I just got so hooked on it. And then 2020, I was going to go overseas. I was pretty keen for it, and just got pulled out from under us.
It seemed like was Connor kind of transferring to that format as well at the time. Was that kind of a good leading factor for you to join as well, or was it all off your own kind of back that you wanted to do the enduro thing?
No, I think it was definitely him for sure, and I think a lot of people, like a lot of other mates, were doing it, and I guess people just saw some new tracks and a new type of racing and thought it was fresh and it could be really fun. So I think a lot of us sort of transformed into the enduro thing.
And you're racing harder tracks on smaller bikes as well, which is
and blind.
Yeah, exactly. Let's make it harder and harder and harder. Yeah. I always wondered it. I think actually might have been 2019 when the EWS went a little bit too hard. I think that was the Enduro Wet Series. And
Yeah.
yeah, that looked brutal.
Yeah, it did look gnarly.
How did you go at the EWS National, the Enduro Nationals in 2019? Because that was stacked, if I remember.
I think I ended up fourth. So it was,
Okay.
yeah, Connor, Booker, Troy, myself, and
Okay.
George fifth. So I was still way off the pace, like, compared to Connor, who was just really talented at those races. But yeah, I sort of found my place and learned a few things and just wanted to improve on that.
Did you have to change your mindset and training and stuff very much, or?
Yeah, I think so. I was just doing longer rides, but what I really struggled with was like the sort of with the downhill, you just focus on sort of zoning out and getting into your flow state. Where with the enduro, I still can't. Like, I can't really get into that flow state. I'm not as intense in my runs, or I'm not as like I don't know. I just haven't really figured it out yet, but it's definitely different. It's
a bit harder because you got to remember so many tracks for one, so you can't just get into this groove.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're not I'm going to sound like Dean Lucas now, but you're not consciously doing stuff like.
Yeah, that's dead set true though.
Was it difficult for you to adapt to the blindness of it and just going as fast as you can without seeing the track? Yeah,
for sure. Like, I'm still sort of struggling with it, but it's sort of like I find some of the funnest runs you have are when you just hit blind, because it's pretty surprising how quick it can go when you know like nothing of what's coming up. So yeah, I'm getting there eventually, but yeah, it's definitely different.
Because then, yeah, coming into this year, you've raced the Nationals. I can't remember where you placed at that for the Enduro, but you also did the downhill as well.
Yeah, I ended up third at the Enduro Fest at Medina.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, while I was down there, I had my trail bike so sweet, so I was ready to rip it for the downhill.
I mean, the downhill track was a flow track, right? So
yeah,
I mean,
that's what I say.
But that Enduro was pretty big, right? Because it was Dan Booker was in first, he smashed it, and then Connor was second, right? And then you?
Yep. So I was still quite a ways off the pace, but I just try and break it down to every minute and how many seconds I'm off every minute over the course of the racing, and then sort of know what I need to do to improve it.
That was a big day out too. Like, that's the closest you're going to get to an EWS round in Australia, I'd reckon.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was a big day, yeah.
And then to back it up, because you did some riding before that, and then you backed it up with national downhill champs.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you guys weren't burnt out over bikes by the end of that.
Oh, well, my bike's still in bits. I'm still like giving it a clean. So I haven't been 2 weeks. But yeah, like I haven't done a trip like that since I was, that much riding, I guess, in a short period of time since I was overseas. So I was all for it. And Connor and Timmy are always keen to ride. So yeah, we tag along every day and get out there.
Yeah, it seemed like an epic crew. It's like, you, Shelley, Connor, Timmy, and Kano, right? Like that's an epic crew.
So good.
And then like out of nowhere as well on qualifying, you were like second in qualifying for downhill nationals, I think.
Yeah, third, yeah.
Third, yeah. But it was all trail bikes at the top.
Yeah, Geordie was second, I was third, and Booker was in first on his downhill bike. So
yeah.
I think because the track slowed down because it was muddy, that sort of helped us. We played in our advantage, not being as fast and not being as rough. And yeah, I honestly just like had a solid run. I kind of attacked the mud more than I normally would.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was pretty surprised.
And did you think, was the pressure on for race day for you starting later in the day?
I didn't really feel that much pressure starting late. I kind of like starting late, or at least I want to put myself into that position to start late so I can get more and more comfortable with it. But I didn't feel like a whole heap of pressure. Like I was actually quietly confident that I could do a top 5 or whatever on that track. Yeah.
But then the track was pretty close to like Euro standard as well, from what I've heard. Like it was pretty damn close.
Yes, for sure. Some bits. It was it was definitely.
And where'd you end up in the finals for that day?
I ended up 9th, so not really where I wanted to be. But yeah, I didn't really. I stayed on mud tyres, which probably in hindsight I should have gone back to dries. And I just couldn't really find my rhythm, I guess. And then some sections I was hitting too quick and blowing them out, and I hadn't raced downhill for quite some time, so just little rookie errors that that I got to iron out again.
But that track was changing like every single day. It was completely different conditions. It was it was sick. I think that's where Troy, I think Baxter said this, Troy's just so good at reading what's in front of him, 5 meters ahead of front of him. That's why he can do so damn well in races like that, is because he knows what it is already. It's a weird talent. Yeah,
I agree.
Because he wasn't looking that much faster throughout the week. But then it's pulled 6 seconds.
Yeah.
I reckon Connor would have been up there, but that's just playing games, all right?
Yeah, for sure.
What are the rest of your plans for the rest of the year then? Have you got anything, or is it all up in the air?
No, I got an entry for an EWS in Switzerland just in case. If we're allowed to travel, I'm going to try and do that, and maybe a local race or 2 while I'm over there, and that's in September. Other than that, or between now and then, it's just local Queensland and New South Wales races. Maybe Sea Otter in Canberra or whatever they're calling it. In October. And then just sort of prep for next year. I'm just making the assumption that next year is going to be all good, hopefully. And do the Derby and the Nelson EWS, and then maybe go overseas and do a couple over there. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens though.
Do you ever feel like getting, 31, 32-ish, do you ever feel like you're going to slow down a little bit in the next few years, or is it all just go because you want to do this EWS thing?
I don't know. Some days I feel like I'm getting safety brain, but then other days I'm like, I just go really fast. So I don't know. My body, physically, I feel better than I've ever felt.
Okay.
So if my brain can keep up, then I'm keen to keep sending it.
That's it. Sick. Hopefully Switzerland goes ahead, and hopefully there's some EWS's races this year. Yeah, I'm keen to watch it. I'm interested. Have you heard much about Sea Otter?
No, I just had Timmy message me the other day about it. I honestly didn't even know what was happening, but I don't really know how it's going to go down. Fingers crossed that it's all good and people can get over here for it. Yeah,
well, I'm definitely keen to. I'm going up there for it for sure. Yeah, but I just don't know what it's going to be.
Well, neither do I. I can't really picture it being like actual Sea Otter, but
no,
we'll see.
It's the first year. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's dual slalom. That's all I care about. Just
that was the highlight of the traditional Sea Otter for sure. It looks so.
Just 3-foot high berms, but just proper. Hopefully that happens. If anyone from Bike SA or Sea Otter's listening, make that happen. We might start wrapping things up a little bit here. I tend to have a few questions, 3 questions I like to ask at the end of every interview. Over the years, is there anything that you would have kind of regretted or wish you'd done differently?
100%.
Okay.
That's a beautiful thing. I wish I just had obviously fitness is one of the biggest things. I wish I had a focus more on fitness, and maybe looked into a mental coach or someone to help me with the mental side of racing. That's probably the 2 biggest things I regret not looking into.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, because it wouldn't have been as big of a deal throughout those years as what it seems to be now, right?
Yeah, now it's quite common, I think, and back then you sort of never really heard of it. So
no, you just go as fast as you possibly can down a hill and focus on that.
Figure it out yourself. Yeah.
What advice would you give to crew that are looking to race overseas and live the privateer life or end up on a team? What advice would you give them?
Don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Yep.
Sort of do your absolute best without putting too much pressure on yourself. And if you have a massive crash or you don't ride your best, just be happy that you left it on the hill and try again the weekend after.
And keep that determination going, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And last question I always ask is, what kind of music do you listen to, or do you have anything you listen to get motivated for a race or for training when you don't want to, or anything like that?
Now, I've got the biggest variety of genres in my playlist, but I guess like rap, like I listen to a bit of Kendrick or Drake or Juice WRLD or someone to get me pumped.
Yeah, okay. That newer stuff. All right.
Yeah.
No Aussie rap?
I used to, but not anymore. I've sort of grown out of it.
Yeah, sick. Yeah. I remember Jack Moyer hates that stuff. Easy, man. Well, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to do this, and I hope it was worth it.
Yeah, it's good. Thank you.
Good to go down memory lane. Thanks so much for being a supporter and coming on, and we'll see you up at Sea Otter, yeah?
Yeah, sounds good, mate. Take it easy.
Easy, mate. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.